I spent 6 months tied to his side, going with him everywhere. What is the key to his success? I decided the source of his power was one thing. 50 Cent is quite honestly fearless in life. The fourth book I wrote is called The 50th Law, and I want to give you a little summary of it, give you a sense of what it is, and maybe excite you to go out and buy the book. Essentially, I was approached by 50 Cent back in, I believe, the beginning of 2006. He was a big fan of the 48 Laws and The Art of Seduction. 33 Strategies of War had just come out. And anyway, we met, and I kind of got the idea that he was thinking of maybe we would do a book together, but he didn't really know what it was. He was kind of leaving it up to me. And I kind of got excited by the prospect because all of my books are essentially about dead people, right? And it could be a little depressing to spend all your time reading biography and reading about people's dying and their lives, all in the past. I can't talk to them, etc. Here's 50, somebody who walked out of the pages of the 48 Laws of Power, what I call the Mozart of hip-hop, if you will. I could interact with him. I could decide the source of his power, and I could bring our two very different worlds. Me, this very middle-class kid from Los Angeles, this other guy who grew up a hustler on the streets in Southside Queens, one of the most dangerous environments in America. You couldn't ask for two people from different backgrounds. We would bring our minds together and write a book, but what would that book be about? I had to discover the source of 50 Cent's power. And if you think about it, it's an amazing story. How many hustlers grow up on the streets of Southside Queens and essentially have the same story with the same ending? Prison, early death, etc., right? They don't get very far. They certainly never end up being this incredibly powerful, successful, charismatic individual who's 50 Cent. What is the key to his success? I spent 6 months tied to his side, going with him everywhere, going to Las Vegas with him, going to parties with him, going to his house in Connecticut, seeing him in business situations, going to his various offices, having dinner with him, etc. In the course of several months, I decided the source of his power was one thing. 50 Cent is quite honestly fearless in life. It is this fearless attitude that is the source of his power. It's what lifted him up from the worst situation in America, the slums, the ghetto of Southside Queens, to the heights of power. Okay, that's what this book would be, a meditation on the power of fearlessness, combining our two worlds. And so each chapter in the 50th Law, there are 10 chapters, examines a particular aspect of fear. I illustrate them first with stories from 50's life that kind of give you a sense of why I think that he's fearless in this area. And then I give some philosophy behind it, and I tell other stories. But it's not what you think it is. It's not 50 being a thug. It's not 50 pushing people around. It's not about being aggressive. Fearlessness is an internal quality. It's an inner quality that gives you a kind of inner strength, so that when you're in situations where most people melt and they completely crumble, you have this kind of stoic inner citadel, as the Stoics would call it, a source of strength where you're not afraid of what happens, and it's incredibly powerful. So, for instance, a lot of times people are deathly connected to what other people think of them, and they're so connected to them that they're afraid of what other people might say about them. 50 doesn't care what people think about him. It's this incredibly powerful attitude towards life, right? You don't like him? All right, so what? Fine, I don't care. I'm going to go my own way. I'm not going to conform. A lot of people are incredibly afraid of failure. And because of that, they never try anything different. They never experiment with anything. 50 doesn't care if he's afraid. I saw him in business meetings, very high-powered business meetings with people offering him $50 million contracts for this, that, the other. He doesn't care about walking away. He doesn't care about saying something that will make them, he doesn't care about saying, no, I don't want to do it, right? And what happens, what I saw in meetings, the fact that he didn't care whether people wanted to work with him or not, made them doubly anxious to work with him. It was a kind of seduction tactic. So not being afraid of death, not being afraid of challenges, not being afraid of adversity. One of the chapters is called Turn Shit into Sugar, which is a hustler phrase, one of 50's favorite phrases. It's like what Ryan Holiday wrote about in The Obstacle is the Way. Adversity is the best thing that can happen to you. It teaches you something. It's an opportunity. And the classic example that I talk about in the 50th Law is 50 was shot 9 times from very close range, came very close to dying. His record label, he had a record about to come out called The Power of the Dollar with Columbia Records. It got canceled because there was too much violence around him. It was the worst thing that could happen to him, obviously nearly died, but second of all, his whole career being destroyed. He ended up having the idea, this is the best thing that could ever happen to me. Speaking of having street cred, speaking of having all these fake gangsters out there, what could be more real than someone who nearly died, who had 9 bullets, 2 of them still lodged in his mouth, making him kind of sing with a slight whistly sound? What could be more real than that? I'm going to bank on it. I'm going to create a mixtape campaign on the streets of New York. I'm going to sell my music without a record label, hand to hand to hand. People are going to hear about 50, what happened to him. This music's going to be gritty and real. And then lo and behold, Eminem hears it, and the rest is history. He turned adversity into opportunity because he wasn't afraid. So 10 chapters on the power of not being afraid, of going your own way in life, of choosing a path that is your own path, and kind of exploring life, of not being afraid of death as well, and exploring life with that attitude is not only powerful and not only help you succeed, it's also very therapeutic, because he's actually a very happy person in life. And so he's a wonderful person. I must admit, I'm not somebody who generally loves or hangs out with celebrities, but he's a happy person in life. And so I wanted to share with you, working with him on this in his life and his story, the power that you can have through this kind of fearless attitude. And that's what the 50th Law is about.